So this is more troubling bias coming from the mainstream media towards Bernie Sanders and his campaign, this time from MSNBC. Not surprising, but still always um, difficult to see that, what lengths the media is willing to do, no matter how just disingenuous and what type of lies they have to put out there towards Bernie Sanders and his policies and what he represents is just very very troubling, and it shows how threatened the mainstream media and corporate interests are, because they really see that Bernie is the real deal and he would stand up and fight for those things in office, unlike some other people that are running. So this is from show AM Joy with Joy Ann Reid is the host of AM Joy, Joanne Reid, and she had this supposed body language expert on, whose name is Janine Driver, and this is just ridiculous. So she had this body language expert on to dissect the body language of Bernie Sanders during the exchange he had with Elizabeth Warren after the last Democratic debate that took place last Tuesday. So just that premise, like, how ridiculous is that? It's about 2.5 weeks up to the first Democratic caucus in Iowa, the first votes that would be cast to decide who's the Democratic nominee for president. Kind of important, in some ways, if you buy into, electoral politics to any extent. It's at least a figurehead, in my opinion, and Bernie Sanders is a much more positive figurehead and would get, a lot more positive things done, in my opinion, than somebody like Donald Trump. And so MSNBC, in this context, 2.5 weeks before the first votes to be cast to see who's the Democratic nominee for president, the show AM Joy, hosted by Joanne Reid, has on the supposed body language expert Janine Driver to break down and analyze the body language between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren in their post-debate quick, little dialogue. It was maybe 10 or 15 seconds after the Iowa debate that happened last week. That's what they're using their airtime for. They're not talking about anything of substance. They're filling the airwaves with complete and utter nonsense to try to distract the voters from what really matters, not analyzing why Bernie Sanders supports Medicare for all, or why he supports a Green New Deal, or canceling all student loan debt, canceling all medical debt, making college free, ending the wars, legalizing marijuana, taxing Wall Street, taxing the wealthy, all of these things that a majority of Americans support to one extent or another. And when Bernie is able to, advocate for those issues, his support goes way up. So that's why, so going after him on the policies doesn't work. So they have to, because his support just keeps growing and rising, and now they're just straight out, resulting into just smears, lies, and all-out character attacks, having on supposed body language experts who claim that Bernie Sanders' body language in that post-debate exchange made him look like a liar. That's the type of news and analysis we're getting from MSNBC, this huge behemoth corporate giant that, to get a commercial on their airwaves, you would probably have to spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars at the minimum. And this is the kind of stuff, the quality of content that they're putting on the airwaves. This is just disgusting and appalling. Like, my God. MSNBC and Weekend anchor Joanne Reid came under fire from progressives and members of the Bernie Sanders campaign Saturday after airing a segment with a body language expert who, citing eye level and the turtling of the 2020 candidate's shoulders, what the WTF, what the fuck, accused Sanders of lying earlier this week when he denied ever telling Senator Elizabeth Warren that a woman could not be president. This is Unhinged, tweeted Megan Day, a staff writer for Jacobin magazine, in response to the segment. Genuinely divorced from reality. Like, what? So the supposed body language expert is citing eye level and the turtling of Bernie Sanders' shoulders. That, what? What? This is the type of evidence that's being presented on MSNBC. It's like, no wonder, like, people are turning to alternative forms of media, you know, like online, as far as, you know, like Democracy Now! Or Secular Talk or Jimmy Dore or, you know, Black Agenda Report, Common Dreams, some other decent ones. Truth Out's pretty good. Truth Dig, Mint Press, The Gray Zone. I mean, there's a few out there, but like, see, if you get your news from MSNBC and that's your only source of news and you're not filtering it through a critical lens that is like, why is MSNBC 2.5 weeks before the Iowa caucus, why are they having on this supposed body language expert that's claiming that Bernie Sanders is a liar because of his eye contact level and the turtling of the shoulders? Like, first, what the hell does turtling of the shoulders mean? Going in, back, I don't know. Please explain to me in the comments what a turtling of the shoulders would be. And this is so ridiculous. Ask yourself, why are they doing this 2.5 weeks before the first election, not covering the issues, nothing of substance, or not discussing the different, you know, policy positions of the candidates? They're having on a supposed body language expert that's calling Bernie Sanders a liar because he's got turtle shoulders going on. It's like, Jesus H. Christ. Jesus H. Christ. No wonder people are turning to people like, you know, Lee Camp and, you know, people of that ilk to get the news, and, you know, Secular Talk and Black Agenda Report and people like that. Yeah, this is just nuts. The guest on Reid's show, AM Joy, was Janine Driver, who promotes herself as an international communications expert and owner and president of the Body Language Institute. The segment sparked howls of criticism aimed at Driver, Reid, and the network. Let's see. Oh, is this the video? That's okay. I checked it out. So now the slant is that he's physically intimidating too. Oh, and sexist rights activist Malika Jabali. Totally cool. Normal interpretation of someone being spontaneously confronted on national TV. It's getting outrageous. Shrink that. Yeah. A little bit. There we go. When both Warren and Sanders have appeared desirous to put the dust up about what was. I know there's a big push to move on, but if the mainstream media is going to broadcast this fraudulent garbage, said Day, then I don't feel particularly compelled to drop it. She was hardly alone. Again, that's the writer for the Jacobin magazine. One of the writers. MSNBC is a fucking disgrace. So journalist Glenn Greenwald of The Intercept. Greenwald said the use of bullshit charlatan body language analysis to call Sanders a liar was appalling but typical of the network. It's sad but true. Driver's performance in the interview led many to check her credentials, political leanings, and background. So this is from a tweet from King Klippenstein. Klippenstein? I think it's Klippenstein. I believe he used to work for TYT's in their investigative reporting division. I think he's with The Nation or something like that. I know he just switched to work for, but like I said, he just used to work for TYT Investigate. So this is the supposed body language expert that Joanne Reed had on her show, AM Joy. Janine Driver, who tweeted that this tweet, this retweeting this link to this article, declassified documents, Obama ordered CIA to train ISIS. Bet it would have said your tax dollars at work. This is people responding to Joanne Reed. Bang up job. Have they located the hackers who authored the homophobic comments on your old blog? I guess there was, I haven't read this blog, but I've heard just in passing reference to Joanne Reed posting some type of homophobic content online a while ago, but it looks like, I guess she was claiming that hackers put that content on there. I don't know. She's not a spokesperson for or against ISIS. Weird how the people exposed to Bernie are often never really that liberal. It's almost like everyone in the mainstream media is rich. Laughing my fucking ass off. Not even close to the word of shit on her page. Oh, at The Nation. Yeah, I was right. I don't know. Interesting. So that's what Joanne Reed, the show AM Reed, and MSNBC are using their very expensive airtime for, is to have on supposed body language experts. I don't really think that's a thing. I think Bernie's body language, if anything, was a result of, his supposed friend and Elizabeth Warren totally stabbing him in the back, accusing him of being a liar and accusing him of, being a sexist and a misogynist, claiming a woman could, never become president. Just so out of character to think that Bernie would author such a claim like that. Honestly, he was advocating, again, decades ago, like in the 80s, for more women to run for office, to hold office, including the presidency, and he's been unequivocal in his support for that stance since then. Here we go. Here's your body language expert, AM Joy. It's no wonder she had an unfavorable report on Bernie Sanders. Evidently, she's personal friends with Joe Biden. Interesting. The media, and it kind of looks like the Warren campaign, are pulling out all the stops right now to try to torpedo Bernie Sanders' campaign as much as they can. It's not sticking because people see through these BS character attacks because they're not related to policy or voting record or anything like that. They're just these made up things. So this is a body language expert. 3 years ago tonight, my mom, dad, and I were at Vice President Joe Biden's house. I was just looking through. Dad and I are in DC at Vice President Joe Biden's residence to honor my mom, Lauren Driver, and all the men. Our final picture of Vice President Joe Biden. I picked Joe Biden for prez. And this was like, yeah, multiple tweets from multiple years. So, yeah, no wonder. And of course, MSNBC is not going to disclose this. And now, here on the show AM Joy, we have Janine Driver, who has been on. Who has been to Joe Biden's personal residence in Washington, D.C. Multiple times on multiple years, on multiple occasions. So, with that in mind, here she is to discuss Bernie Sanders' body language during the exchange he had with Elizabeth Warren after the debate. Hello, Janine. How are you? Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that. Well, we've kind of decided to change. How we present information to the public and don't want to do the bidding of the neoliberal status quo centrist elite anymore. So we're not going to do the biddings of the, corporation or the centrist, like how you're trying to prop up Joe Biden and take down Bernie Sanders. Well, obviously, that type of critique wouldn't get on MSNBC, but how awesome would it be if it did? So that's the context. This is the person that was on MSNBC criticizing Bernie Sanders' body language, calling him a liar. That's the level of journalism we're dealing with here.